Hello again, Darkfire here with the 5th Battalion Filthy Casuals. Today I'll be presenting you all with a deep dive on Squad's FOB stagnation. I briefly covered this topic a few months ago in this video, along with some other issues, so be sure to check out that video as well. Lastly, before we dive in, do not forget to like the video and subscribe for more casual Milsim content. Now let's dive in. In the past few weeks, assuming you're watching shortly after the video was posted, Squad has announced yet another new faction, the PMCs or Private Military Contractors, along with a rework of the Al-Basra map. With the new faction, there has been a rumor going around that OWI plans on shifting focus from factions and maps to other areas of the game. Thus, I wanted to take the opportunity to make a case for a rework of the FOB mechanics for Squad. This will include proposing a change to the FOB radii and the proxy system. Like in my previous video, I want to preface this with the fact that I am a longtime Squad player and have been playing with the same FOB mechanics for roughly 4 years. FOBs have been so neglected that I can't even find patch notes on the Join Squad website nor on the Squad wiki. Which brings me to the major issue. FOBs are becoming extremely predictable for veteran players. So much so that I have heard old and new players alike claim that the other team is ghosting more and more frequently, though this is rarely true. Usually this is due to the FOBs being placed in predictable locations and thus being found quickly by the other team. Let's look at an example. So here we are on Gorodok, and we're going to have an example where we're attacking Fruit Farm. In this example, we'll be attacking from the south and west. Now, due to the terrain and the restrictions of the FOB, it is likely that we place the FOB roughly here or here. This allows us to then place a FOB on the point, assuming we capture it, though the exact placements are not that important for the example. The FOB radios are placed in cover and concealment away from the likely avenues of approach the enemy will take. HABs are placed as close as the terrain and the FOB restrictions will allow in order to reduce the amount of running players will have to do in order to attack the enemy position. This makes sense from a gameplay standpoint. Players get into the action quickly and the assault can maintain pressure. However, these locations are becoming very predictable, especially if the FOBs are placed using helicopters. So let's say as an SL, I account for the predictability. I place my FOB here, farther to the southwest. I have much the same idea of placing the HAB away from the radio to reduce the runtime. Now the FOB is much farther away from the enemy and less likely to be discovered by roaming infantry. Sounds great. Problem solved, yeah? No. With this placement, players will complain about the running simulator and the open ground between the HAB and the objective. This will inevitably lead another SL to placing a FOB much closer than they should to the objective, say here. Now this places a third FOB on the map and risks yet another 20 tickets. In this scenario, we now have a total of 60 tickets on the field just in FOBs on Fruit Farm. Not to mention, this new FOB is extremely close to the enemy and is all but guaranteed to be found and destroyed. On top of all of this, assuming it is not found, and we take the position on Fruit Farm, we still cannot place a defensive FOB on Fruit Farm due to the exclusion radius of the E4 FOB. It is also unlikely our team will tear down the FOB to move it. This leaves the defense of Fruit Farm extremely vulnerable, as well as the radio. I'll show this again on a different map. Gorodok is old and predictable, right? What about a newer map like Harju? It's a similar situation. In this example, I have placed a FOB just off of East Apartments to allow us room to place an attack FOB on Lumberyard. Again, due to terrain and FOB restrictions, both the radio and HABs are placed in somewhat predictable locations. Not to say they are completely obvious, but there is a good chance one or two enemy players find either the HAB or the radio within a few minutes. I want to add to this the slope restrictions on placing HABs as well. As you can see from this clip on Harju, HABs need nearly flat ground in order to be placed. I'm sure this is due to the amount of space needed for a player to spawn in, and if the HAB were to be placed on a steep slope, players may likely spawn in the ground or on top of the HAB. I don't disagree with the concerns, but I do think there may be a better option, such as making the HAB one HESCO block taller, but phasing that block into the ground so it's not seen. This would of course make placing HABs on the second floor of a building problematic, but would also open up more open terrain for placing HABs. But I digress. I still believe that the major issue with FOBs is predictability. The easiest way to resolve this issue is by adjusting the FOB build zone and the exclusion zones. If OWI were to increase both zones' radii by 100 meters, this would change the nature of a FOB placement. By increasing the exclusion zone by 100 meters, it forces players to build less FOBs and place radios farther away. For example, a good way of judging where a FOB will be placed is by placing a FOB creation mark on the objective itself, then searching the perimeter of the exclusion zone for the enemy FOBs. Depending on the terrain, the enemy FOBs will be placed near this outer circle. This will be to allow the enemy team to place a defensive FOB on or very near the objective, assuming they capture it, as shown here. Now, if we can increase the exclusion zone by 100 meters, it forces squad leaders to place the radios farther away from the point, assuming they are using this method, therefore making it harder to find. This also limits how many radios can be placed near the objective without implementing a hard cap on total radios. Secondly, if we increase the build radius by 100 meters, it will allow squad leaders more options in regards to where they place the HABs and fortifications, allowing the radio to be more hidden and allowing the HAB to be placed in the same positions it would be in the current build radius. You can see this in the example I'm showing you now. I am currently standing where the would-be radio is, and the move mark is on the would-be HAB location 240 meters away. This is the same position it would likely be placed with the current FOB radii. The difference is that the radio is much safer being farther away. Now this wouldn't change the FOB strategy very much, because HABs will still be placed in roughly the same positions as they currently are. But if we only increase the build radius by 50 meters, it would force squad leaders to choose between placing the radio in a predictable location to then place the HAB as close to the objective as possible, or place the radio in a safer location and the HAB slightly farther away. In this example being shown, the new move mark is the limit of the build radius. Due to where the FOB creation mark is, the HAB could only be placed this close. In this case, it's an open field. However, this does open up more options for the squad leaders. I am now currently standing under a bridge 180 meters to the north-northwest of the FOB creation mark. With an increased build radius, an SL could place the HAB here with the radio still being on the FOB creation marker. When in a defensive role, the build radius increase also allows for more fighting positions and fortified positions around the objective. A 50-meter increase does not sound significant, but this could mean the difference between being able to build an ammo crate or a machine gun position on key terrain and being forced into low or indefensible terrain such as a field. In this next example, you can see that the northwest of Train Yard is an open field. Players are currently only really able to place defenses very near the objective on this side. This would mean players would have to run from my move marker all the way back to the wood line with the ammo resupply marker to rearm. However, I am currently 180 meters from the move marker. If the build radius were to be increased by 50 meters, they could have an ammo crate and fortifications across this road. This means more area for players to defend, but also a larger area for the enemy to attack, thus creating more standoff distance between the edge of the FOB and the objective. This in turn allows for more standoff distance between the most distant fortifications and the dreaded proxy of the HAB. Which brings me to the FOB overrun mechanic or proxy system. All in all, this is a decent mechanic used to prevent defenders from using spawns to continue the fight inside of or very near the HAB. It works fairly well. However, I do believe this could use an adjustment. Currently, the mechanic works like this. 9 players are needed to overrun the HAB at a distance of 90 meters. 6 players at 60 meters, 3 at 30, and 2 at 20. Again, it's not bad. However, in the spirit of coordination and team play, I believe this should be adjusted. If OWI were to increase the number of players needed and maintain the current maximum distance to overrun a HAB, it would give defenders a bit more of a fighting chance. For example, if the number of players at 90 meters was increased to 12, it would require more than one squad making an effort to attack the HAB to overrun it at a maximum distance. This could then be scaled to 9 players at 60 meters, 6 at 40, and 3 at 20. Again, this would not create a significant change, but just enough to force attackers to close the distance or be supported by a second squad. This in turn gives defenders a little bit more time to spawn and react to enemy players before the HAB is overrun. Would these changes revolutionize FOBs and where they are placed? No, but I don't think the FOB radii or the FOB system as a whole needs revolutionized. It does need to be shaken up a little. simply to make FOBs less prone to being discovered within a few minutes of being placed. Adjusting the radii simply increases the amount of area needed to be searched by enemy players in order to be found, therefore decreasing the likelihood of a radio or HAB being spotted right away. Now don't get me wrong, there are still many ways to give away the radio's position, whether by poor choices on the squad leader or simply by happenstance. But this is one way of increasing the radio's chance of being missed by the enemy team. This would also give players more room to build, defend, and attack, while simultaneously increasing the range at which a radio can be placed to another radio. Ideally, this will also increase the range at which players choose to place radios near an objective. Yes, players may have to run a little bit farther. Yes, this may slow down the pace of the game just a tiny bit, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. This would promote the use of rally points over FOBs, it would promote a more thought-out approach to attack and defense, and most importantly, it would allow for more room to choose where to place HABs and fortifications. Would an adjustment to the overrun mechanic drastically change gameplay? Again, no. This is a small augmentation of the current rules, allowing for a small shift in the gameplay loop. It puts slightly more emphasis on making a concerted and concentrated attack to overrun a HAB by giving defenders more time to react to an enemy squad. What if both ideas were implemented? Would this cause a drastic change in gameplay? Also, no. Even if both of these changes were implemented, the idea is to slightly shift the gameplay, not change it entirely. Increasing the radii restricts radio placement and allows more freedom to place HABs within the build zone. Changing the overrun mechanic prevents one squad from overrunning a HAB at long distances and incentivizes coordination between squads to attack the enemy spawn. These are augments to the already tried and true yet neglected mechanics of the game. Small things that could change the fundamental system that is the FOB. It's not flashy, it's not exciting, it's not something new, but neither is a basement or a foundation. Yet they are crucial to keeping the game from falling in on itself and collapsing, just like a basement or foundation to a house. But what do you all think? Is a new faction or vehicle that much more important? Or is this an adjustment that you think would make Squad's gameplay feel a little bit better or at least different? Let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more filthy casual content, and I will see you all in the next one.